What I meant to say earlier when I was caught off guard is that I remember how for the past maybe 9 years, something that's been haunting me is that because of work and my emotional issues, I never enjoyed my days off with an early start. I started to sleep in, even though I didn't need to continue to sleep in, until 11 a.m., noon, sometimes 1 o'clock. I wasted a lot of my days to my emotions and me feeling artificially tired. And by that I mean physically I wasn't tired, but mentally I was just drained. One of the things that I was very conscious about back then, I want to say it would have been maybe 6 years ago. I told myself, wow, for me, being out in the morning on a day off is special. And sometimes I would say when I would go to pick up breakfast before work and I, depending on the season, would witness the sun rising and stuff like that, I said to myself, wow, I'm up really early today and I'm out and I'm getting food, but I'm committed to making it to work. I wish I didn't. Sometimes the weather was just the nicest weather in the world, like my favorite temperature, possibly cloudy, maybe the occasional drizzle here and there. And I always thought, I really wish I could just be home, just chilling there, or in some cases, just driving somewhere, even if I'm just strolling while in the car. I became very aware that I was gonna look back one day in the future and be like, I'm really sad about all the mornings I didn't get to enjoy and just wasted because I was crippled by how I felt. And I can say that again today, and I know I've said it before in more recent times, like maybe about a year ago I made a reference to it, but this week I have been out in the morning 3 times. And I felt the difference. I could see how much I was getting done and how early I was still in the day and how little to no scrambling I had to do. And what's sad is that back in those days, when I was emotionally crippled, I kept saying, my next day off, I'm going to start early. I'm going to, but I just never did. And sometimes it just reminds me of the things that I always set out for myself that I never achieved. For instance, I remember vividly saying, by the time I'm 20 years old, I'm gonna have a flat stomach. Never happened. And the reason I wanted the flat stomach is because I always knew I was fat and I wanted to experience it. It was more about how it felt more than how it looked, because I've never had the sensation of a flat stomach. Maybe when I was a kid, maybe like 3-4 years old, I might have been small. But all I have known in my life is this bloated, constant feeling. I remember the things that, especially in my middle school days, I would say, when spring comes around, I'm going to go outside and jog every Saturday. And my version of going outside and jogging and being athletic was to pretty much jog through this little yard at the apartments I lived at the time. Maybe one day I'll go back and visit if it's still there, because there's been a lot of remodelations going on that maybe those places got taken down too. But it was kind of like an open, really, really tiny field. It was like the front yard, backyard of the apartment. It was like a patch of land that was simply grassy. Actually, now that I face to my right, I see something that kind of resembles what I saw. But anyway, and I just remember that I used to try to sprint over that little field, and eventually I had some kind of ball. Maybe it was a volleyball. And I wanted to pretend that I knew how to play soccer, because at the time I just so happened to have gotten shorts that looked like what soccer players wear. And yeah, that was it. That was my version of being athletic. And I just remember I would be so out of breath. And now, looking back, I'm like, stuff would have been somewhat different for me if I would have had the opportunity of becoming athletic at an earlier age. But what I learned as an adult who's now more on the athletic side, the most athletic I've ever been, I just tell myself, well, my time wasn't at that time. And maybe it's a good thing that I wasn't, because given that I always had a degree of physical issues, anytime I would run, at some point I would stumble and scrape my knees and just hurt myself. That is part of the reason why I never wanted to be athletic. And sometimes I would observe my classmates who were into sports teams, how occasionally they would have a cast. You're breaking your bones and stuff. So I said to myself, if that happens to me, I don't think I can get the help that I need to recover from that. And sincerely, I just don't want to go through that pain. So I guess because I didn't experience that pain, I never gained the gains of being athletic. But when I look back and I consider who were the kids that were in the teams, I'm like, it was way outside of my socioeconomic status. And those kids had been in teams for their entire lives, pretty much. I would have been team worthy if I was in the group of people who officially never played sports. It's like, okay, let's play kickball, and nobody is a soccer player, nobody has been athletic to any extent. It's, let's see how well you can kick, how far you can kick, and how fast you can sprint. That I would have excelled at something like that. And when playing tug of war, I only remember losing tug of war once in my life. So then I thought, well, looking back, I'm just glad that I can reorient myself with those memories. It's not that I was haunted by them. I did experience sadness when I was rejected into sports team when I tried out when I was in 8th grade. I didn't make it to volleyball, and I definitely didn't make it to softball. I never even hit the softball. I tried my 3 swings and never hit it. And I cannot believe that's the tryout, but never hit it. I remember swinging and the sound of the air, you know, going like, whoo. And I remember the crowd was like, whoo, because when I swing, I'm going to swing with everything I have. That made me proud. But then for volleyball, I was just shocked that I was a hella good volleyball player in elementary school, despite not being an official volleyball athlete. But I could not get that fucking ball over the net. And I remember a girl who was a volleyball player. The day of tryout, she was telling her friend, I cannot get it over. And it helped me feel kind of better. But I think I was also under the pressure of, I must perform my best, because that's what's at stake here if I want to make it anywhere. So yeah, I was just rambling about that, because it's nice to be able to look at memories from the past where I felt disappointment and frustration, especially with myself. But now I can look back and be like, I'm glad that it didn't consume me, but I'm glad that I can look back now, be objective, and celebrate what I did achieve. And even if to this day I'm still not happy because my issues at the gym and not progressing and things, at least I can say, hey, I can do 3 hours on the treadmill at high intensity. And that's something that I know for a fact I couldn't do back in those days. So yeah, I'm just proud of myself in that regard, and I just want to point it out to me and share the story too, just in case you guys have a similar story of something that disappointed you, kind of frustrated you, you let it go, now you look back and you reflect on it and you just feel better somehow. Not that you were feeling bad, but you just feel better.